Well, airline passengers, listen up, because you might have to start handing over your personal information to authorities before boarding. According to the UK paper The Independent, travelers are going to have to hand over data to the Department of Homeland Security at least 72 hours before they fly. And that data would include your full name, your birthday, your gender, the usual. And if you don't shell out that info, then you're not going to fly. In fact, DHS reserves the right to keep anybody from flying up until it's time to take off. Now, I'm sure that seasoned airline passengers out there probably aren't all that surprised by this, right? They're used to giving up some privacy for the sake of that cramped plane seat. After all, travelers that entered the U.S., well, they've had to supply advanced passenger information, or API, before putting on the seatbelt for some time now. But the thing is, we're not just talking about flights to and from the U.S. anymore. Now the Department of Homeland Security wants to monitor anybody who's leaving the United Kingdom, not just Americans. Take a look at this. Travelers that are leaving the UK and heading to Canada, especially areas like Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Nova Scotia, well, they're going to have to hand over their information. And according to The Independent, about 750,000 Brits make that trip every year, so that is a lot of personal info. Now, those who are traveling to Mexico are also going to be sharing personal details, especially if they're flying to Mexico City or to Cancun. And if any travelers are pondering a vacation in Cuba or the Caribbean, be prepared to give over your info too. So, is anybody else out here picking up on a pattern? I don't know. How about, there we go. How about the fact that all of these passengers are not going to the United States? In fact, nobody is entering American airspace. So far, the only paper reporting on this is The Independent. Surprise, surprise, that no U.S.-based news outlet has shared this new procedure. Maybe because the DHS knows that they're going to catch some hell for it. Now, I know that we're in a post-9/11 world, but who gave the U.S. government the authority to police international airspace, especially when none of the passengers are even setting foot on U.S. soil? Now, lots of critics out there will say that monitoring trips to Cuba might be a good way for the U.S. to put a damper on Americans traveling to the country, which would be breaking the rules technically, but this is an excuse to collect everybody's information? Obviously, DHS is overstepping their bounds here. But Canadian and British airlines have already agreed to these new rules, which are being implemented this month. No questions asked. Now, thankfully, some people are expressing their concerns, like Simon Hughes. He's the deputy leader of the Liberal Democrats. And this is what he said. The concern by the U.S. for its own security is entirely understandable. But it seems to me it's a whole different issue that America wishes should determine the rights and choices of people traveling between two countries, neither of which is the U.S. Now, I hope somebody on the other side of the pond starts publicly questioning this, but in the meantime, looks like Homeland Security is taking it upon themselves to monitor the skies, not just in the U.S., the homeland, but all over the place. So maybe it's time that they change their name.